Episode number 7, is it?
Episode number 7, I think it is.
And we're live.
Yes, sir, we're live once again.
Bedroom super producers around the world, welcome back to your podcast where we discuss famous bedroom producers, techniques, equipment, trends, anything that could help you get further with your career as a bedroom music producer. And today in episode number 7, we are going to discuss probably one of the greatest and latest bedroom super producer that got on the scene working for his sister, a very, very cool artist by the name of Billie Eilish. And BK, how'd you heard first of Billie?
I think the first time I heard was on, I think it was BBC Radio 1.
Around what year?
Probably last year, I think.
Okay, so 2019?
Yeah, the beginning of last year, I think. And it was the new thing. Incredibly enough, I thought she was British at first.
Right.
I didn't even know she was from LA.
Yeah, because her style is not too Californian, if you will.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, on my part, I was really surprised when you told me that we needed to cover Billie, because it made me realize that I had seen this Vanity Fair interview that they did in, I think it was 2017, the first, and then they redid it a year later on the exact same day. And in 2018, she basically had blown up. She was actually saying that like her number of followers on Instagram in 17 was something like 257K.
Oh boy.
And the year later, she was at like 6 point something millions.
Wow.
And I remember that she sounded so depressed. She sounded like she hated stardom.
Like the interview?
Yeah. And well, I was pleased to realize also that she did it for a third time last year, and she looks and sounds so much better, healthier, happier. So that's how I discovered Billie. And at the time, all I could think of was, here we go again. Teen pop star goes haywire, and we lose her too soon to, drugs and paparazzis chasing her all over LA. And so it's really great to see her like bloom and become the artist that she has become with the first album.
True.
So, and obviously, as I hinted in the intro, we're also going to talk about her brother, who produces every song with her. They're basically this dynamic duo.
Exactly, they're a duo.
They do everything from recording to basic mixing to writing, obviously, all of the...
They do shows together too?
They do, yeah. They do.
He plays guitar and bass and keyboards on her live set.
Well, they both have some crazy musicianship. I think Billie also plays like the ukulele. She's obviously an amazing singer.
Yeah, true.
So let's start with the most obvious thing about their music, and to me, that would be Billie's voice.
She has a pretty cool voice in the sense that you see that she's trained, but she doesn't necessarily want people to realize that she's trained. I don't know if you noticed that.
You mean in the way she delivers her performances?
Exactly. It could be more of like we said, like a trained a Katy Perry, a Britney Spears. You see that they want to expand their voice. They want to show that they can like
they have this amazing range.
Exactly, but for her, it's like that she's good with the subtle control that she has on her voice, and she doesn't need to scream it. And most of the songs, as we know, are like whispered.
Yeah.
For me, that's incredible, the way she controls her voice and the whispering tone, and still you can still feel the melodies, feel the emotion. That's what I like a lot about her voice.
Absolutely. I was watching actually yesterday a few tutorials on how to achieve this vocal sound. And when I listened to the tracks that the guys on YouTube created, you could actually tell the basic difference. And like you said, it's all about emotion and the way that they capture in the recordings, like the little breath noises
Exactly.
and the little clickety clack things that usually engineers will remove, but they leave all of that in there. And it gives you that intimate feel.
That organicness.
And I thought that the guys were all about, using such and such compressor tricks and EQs, and they were missing the point that the magic is actually
before that.
Yeah, exactly. In the perfect recording of her voice.
Exactly.
And I was watching also this interview with Finn, her brother. Well, actually, I think they're both in his room. And he says that, and they both say actually that they record each and every like sentences and syllables and like 50 times. So it goes to show you that most miracles don't happen during the mixing stage.
Exactly. It's like, it's really the initial stage that's most important. And sometimes we get overwhelmed with everything we have, with all the computers we have, with all the plugins we have, with all the machines. We always want to buy something new. And I think her sound is a perfect example that shows us that like it's the beginning that counts.
Absolutely.
It's really her voice, the arrangement ideas that they had together, and usually basic melody, basic piano melody on top of it, not like far-fetched arrangements. And most of the songs, if you look at it, it made me thought of the Neptunes back in the days.
Yeah.
Like using not that many elements. Usually there's what in her songs, maybe drums, a bass, and her voice.
And maybe one instrument sometimes.
Not all the time.
Yeah, you're right. Like,
usually it's 3 elements, and then you have maybe a little lead that comes at some point, maybe an arpeggiator at some point. So for me, it was that simplicity that I found was very effective. And usually people, they don't go for that because they think that it's not enough. They always want to put more and more and more layers and more layers. But if you don't have that foundation that gets people that you can feel it, you can have 15 layers and it doesn't mean anything.
And to reinforce your point, in the interview that Finn did with Dave Pinsado's at Pinsado's place, you can tell that they want to know what the mixing tricks are, like what plugin did you use on the vocal on such and such tracks and all of that. And I was so amazed to hear Finn say that he puts the stock compressor from Logic on the vocals, no de-essing, no EQ, no nothing. And that's it. That's his vocal chain. Maybe one other plugin sometimes, like a vocal transformer or something to mess around with the vocal. But basically, it's all about her and the way she sings into that mic.
Exactly. So I think that's a good lesson for the bedroom producers out there.
Absolutely.
Everything happens like before the mic.
Exactly.
Before going into the computer. It's the performance. It's how you play it on the keyboards, how you play it on your guitar, how you're going to sing it in your mic, how you're going to compress your voice yourself, how you're going to get close to the mic to get that the central feeling, how you're going to get a little bit further to compress it naturally or to have a more even feeling. And that's lessons that we usually forget these days because we always want to like mix everything with technology and plugins and have these super long effects chain. If you don't need to put a compressor on the voice, don't put a compressor, right?
Exactly. I wonder what part of the human brain has evolved to think that it always has to be some kind of voodoo or magic trick that happens for people like them to blow up and just become super successful and inspiring artists. Because nowadays, like everyone's trying to figure out what they did, like what kind of magic they had going in the studio to achieve those records, where really it was just like fun songwriting.
Exactly. But you can see that they've been at it for a long time.
Absolutely.
I think that the first single that they released was like what, maybe back in 2016, or well, maybe not a single, but the first track they released together on SoundCloud was what, 2015, 2016?
15, 16, yeah. She
Something
was
like that.
17 when they released Ocean Eyes. Is that the track that helped them?
Wasn't she like 14 or something?
Maybe. With that being said, let's talk about the way they write their songs, because as you said, it's usually just a few elements, and yet the songs sound super full. Everything's very musical. So what do you take away from listening to a Billie Eilish song?
The way they write it, or like how do I feel when I listen to a song?
Well, what do you learn from the experience?
Well, most like I said before, simplicity is key. And I think we've lost this over the years. The whole intimate aspect of music. Like pop music today is this big party with champagne, with exploding things, and lots of different flavors on the cake. And we kind of forgotten that whisper in your ear feeling that we used to get before. I think musicians before, let's say, take something like, I don't know, the Eagles or the Doors, you would have these whispers. You would have these moments of less loud moments, and then stuff that's a little bit louder. And the way they do their music, that's exactly how they do it. Instead of having the pop formula of everything super loud all the time, and that wants to keep your attention the whole song.
Yeah.
They oscillate. They have
Dynamics.
They have this super low, super whispery, in your ear, in your face voice, no reverb, no room, no nothing, like someone standing next to you. And then boom, you have this trap beat with wobbly bass and these trap hi-hats. So that's what I like about her music. The dynamics in terms of ideas, in terms of loudness, in terms of all
and I
these
think
things.
they play into that with the way they craft those Foley type drum tracks. They use a lot of
they do
organic,
a lot of sound design too.
Yeah, exactly.
They're trying to find sounds and not have all these necessarily generic. They copy a lot of music. You can see that they're influenced by a lot of things.
Absolutely, yeah.
But they still have the craftsmanship to make sounds. Kind of, I think I was watching an interview and they were talking about the way they recorded like lighting matches in the bathroom.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Using a very similar digital recorder to the one we're using right now.
So
I was amazed also to see Billie like pull out her iPhone to show the original recordings of stuff that she picked up like while traveling, and then they integrated that in the drum beats and I realized how little I use my iPhone to do such
sound design,
things, sound design or recording melodies that I have in my head. And because the microphone's pretty darn good on smartphones these days. And then you can just use like, AirDrop to transfer a WAV file to your DAW, and boom, that's it.
Exactly.
You have like Foley stuff to use in your productions.
It doesn't have to be extraordinary. Like you want a snippet of something. Even if there's noise, even if there's background noise, there's always like a little thing you can use. People sometimes they get stuck at I don't know, I don't have my big digital camera, or I don't have my big recorder, so I'm not recording. Just record it. It's a worst case scenario. It's going to be an idea, and you can go back and bring your real recorder or your real camera and take it again.
Sure.
So you won't forget.
Sure, and also low quality could be the new high quality. You know what I mean?
So how many overdrive plugins do we have, and how many lo-fi plugins that we're putting on our records these days because we want it to sound like old vinyls from the 60s?
Yeah, we're going back actually in terms of quality because we realize that there's heart and soul in that.
Exactly.
Stuff.
There's this analog buzz.
So, to your point about, the Eagles and the Doors, kind of playing into their equipment, whether it be an amp or a mic. I like the fact that, to me, Billie and Phineas strike me as huge music nerds. You can tell that they listen to anything and everything. Like in some interview, like Billie was saying that her favorite performers were, and I was like waiting to hear, and she goes like Young Thug, Lil Wayne, and all these rappers, Tyler, the Creator. And then you can tell that she introduces some of that energy and artistry, also the way she dresses, the way she has her videos shot and all of that. And by using all of these influences, you can also tell that they kind of are right now some of the ultimate rule breakers. Because like you said, in pop, everything has to be recorded to perfection. Everything is loud. Everything is mixed in a very, very rigid way.
Exactly.
Whereas everything moves and flows like the ocean.
Goes up and down.
Exactly.
Exactly. Well, in a way, I think it was a very good subject for our podcast for bedroom producers, because I think it goes to show how an industry that knows what makes money, at some point, everything starts to sound the same. The artists change, the name change, the song change a little bit, but it's the same producers producing the tracks. It's recorded at the same studios. It's the same managers. It's the same companies. It's
the same kind of plucks. It's the same kind of chords. It's the same kind of vocal melody.
Exactly. And the fact that they did this by themselves in their bedrooms, you take away all of that. You can do whatever you want. There's not someone who's going to tell you, well, here's the money beat. You should use this. Or here's the recipe to do this. You do whatever you want. If you do it badly, it's going to suck. Fine. But if you do it in a creative manner, well, you get 10 Grammys.
I can't agree more. Have you seen Phineas's original bedroom? I don't think he produces there anymore, but the bedroom he had in their parents' house, that was amazing to me, because prior to seeing that interview in their bedroom or his bedroom, I was talking to kind of a very experienced musician, and he was asking me about, soundproofing his studio. And the first thing I said is, don't worry about the soundproofing. Just know your equipment. Like, know what your monitors do well and don't do well. Same with your headphones. And then, play your mixes in the car. Play your mixes everywhere. And then just have your brain basically do a mental mapping of all of the little imperfections, and then just go in the DAW and work around that by using the frequency spectrum on your EQs and stuff like that.
Exactly.
And to that point, like, I laughed when I saw that those KRKs were like in bookshelves facing like the wall behind, instead of having like this triangle stereo image to really like pinpoint the ears in the placement of the monitors. So
there's no room that's going to be perfect. So if you use that to stop you, or as an excuse to not make great music because your room isn't the right size, you're never going to make music. It's kind of like saying you can't mix with headphones, or you have to mix with headphones, or you can't mix with this sound card, or just use what you have. Learn with what you have. And I think she's the perfect example. Well, they're the perfect example that you can make great music in a bedroom. You can make music that sucks in a bedroom too, but you can also make great music. And it's the time to do it is now.
Are we still talking about music here?
I think we do.
All right, let's keep going on the production side. I want to have your take, because you're our sound design guy. What do you think of the way they have their sounds, like the synth sounds, the 808s?
It's very. It sounds like 2019. For me, I listen. If you remove all the voice, it sounds like trap. It sounds
Very
like
current sounding.
very current sounding.
Yeah.
It's if you're like a purist and you know your analog sound and everything, you're probably gonna say that it sounds a lot like it's in the box.
Yes.
You're probably gonna. At the same time, that's a specific sound, and it's okay to have that sound. It's for me, everything goes. You can do it however you want, and they're the perfect example of just trying stuff out, doing great sound design. They don't use that many different like synths and stuff. You think they don't use like 10, 15 different plugins for synth?
No, but what struck me was the treatment. Like they use mixing as a step in their sound design process. In certain songs, like I can't remember the name of the track. It has this kind of disco vibe to it, and the bass line has actually 3 copies of the original loop. One on the left that's probably playing a few milliseconds before, one in the center that has, maybe a cleaner tone, and then one on the right that has maybe like a flanger or a phaser, and because they have so little elements, they're able to create these super wide stereo images on 808s and bass lines. Again, things that you wouldn't really try, because we've been told that if the kick and bass aren't like dead center, you're probably going to have phasing issues in the club and stuff like that.
But you're right, because what I noticed is that even though they have all the technology and all the plugins and everything, there's a lot of things that they do manually.
Yeah.
A lot of panning stuff, a lot of on the voice stuff, they do so many layering just to get that special energy, or to get that special sparkling, or to have that special voice at a certain point, or to have that organic feeling that that it's layered and it's not perfect. You're not saying every word. I think that's one of the things that I like about the way they record stuff and the way they mix things. Lots and lots of layering to give it that special sound. And it's very difficult to recreate, because you have to be able to do it. Not everyone can play over themselves 50 times and still have it like in a coherent way.
And hear what you're actually doing.
And hear what you're trying to do. And there's 50 takes, and you can make you can say, oh, this is different. We're going to remove this. That's where you see that they were musicians before recording. They were playing music since they were little. They had pianos everywhere.
And they were in choirs.
In choirs and everything. So listen to them, learn your music, learn your craft, play an instrument.
Yeah, it makes me realize, to your point, that, again, going back to those YouTube tutorials that were trying to emulate the sound, in one particular case, the guy had this little synth run, and I could actually tell which song he tried to emulate, or like the interplay between the vocals and the synth. And the actual Billie Eilish song, that synth part is actually a vocal that is so heavily transformed that the guy actually thought it was played by a synth.
They did a lot of that, and I think, for the record, they sampled voice that they replayed.
Right.
Like in the sampler, like it was like as if it was an instrument.
Yeah, it's actually amazing the way they produce vocals with the... you could tell also that they use a lot of stock Logic Pro plugins, like the vocal transformer. You can tell the way it changes the pitch and changes the formants.
If it works, why not?
Yeah. It made me nostalgic of a good old Logic Pro that we ditched for Ableton.
Well, I think we still have tracks. I think sometimes when I want to switch it up, I'm going to bounce some stuff that I did in Logic and work at it in Ableton.
All right. A pop quiz.
Pop quiz. All right.
Do you know who Rob Kanelsky is?
Is he a famous Olympian?
To my knowledge, he hasn't broken any Olympic records.
Is he a famous downhill skier?
He might be a downhill skier, but he's not a famous downhill skier.
Okay, I don't know him.
So Rob Kinelski is the guy who actually mixed Billie Eilish's full album, like the latest album.
But they didn't do everything in their bedroom?
Well, so that's the thing. They, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, they do a lot of pre-mixing, I would call it. They'll usually send the vocals the way they want to have them sound. And
Like
Kinelski has a very, very interesting approach. Again, I saw an interview at Dave Pensato's place, and he was saying that he relates to his job as a mixer like being like a hairstylist, where person will sit in the chair and he'll say just, how much do you want me to take off? You know what I mean? Like how much do I cut? And that's just the way he does it with them. Like he'll just clean it up, and he tries to not get in the way of the artist.
That's
and,
interesting. He doesn't want to change everything. So he's not like a producer that wants to take them or take an artist someplace. He's just there to like render their thoughts in the clearest way with the mix.
Yeah, exactly. Because they were asking both guys, like, what's your sound? And he was like, well, I hope I don't have one. I'm trying to, like you said, put the artist's work in the best light.
Artist, yeah.
And so if we want to talk about some nerdish stuff for a second, I found it very interesting that the first plugin on his vocal chain is what? Pop quiz question number 2.
R-Comp.
The Fairchild 670. Oh my dog. Yeah. Your favorite, his favorite.
Which one? The Waves one, the UAD one?
I would guess that it's the UAD one, because he talked about a few other plugins, such as the UAD Neve 1073.
Oh.
Which also goes on his vocal chains, he said.
Wow.
And so what he does on Billie Eilish's vocal is just that Fairchild, Neve, de-essing, he said, and sometimes a little bit of a vocal writer. I think that's by Waves.
Yeah, vocal writers by Waves, I think.
And he said that even with the vocal writer, it's a lot of automation. So if the vocal sounds good, he's not going to compress or, you know.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Oh, and Pro Q2 also.
Okay, Pro Q2.
Yeah.
Of course.
You can't go mixing vocals without
Pro Q2.
Yeah. And I wanted to talk also about the fact that the way they brand Billie Eilish, I find so fascinating, because like you said, they do like pop trap stuff, and then she dresses like an emo rock goddess. And actually I found it very, very interesting that they both name dropped My Chemical Romance as a very big influence. I had no idea what that group was, so I had to listen. They're kind of like a modern day Americanized version of Queens somehow.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. I don't know them that well.
No.
Yeah, I know the name.
So it goes to show you that they're really students of the game.
Yeah, they know a lot of bands, and especially students of music in general. They're not going to listen to just one genre.
Exactly.
They're going to have trap elements. They're going to be rock elements. There's going to be real instruments, synth. That's what's interesting. So it's even difficult to brand them to a style. I think no one says it sounds like rock. It sounds like hip hop. It sounds like trap. They say it sounds like Billie, right?
It does. It does.
I think that's what they want. They want people to say it sounds like them. Like to create this kind of niche. I think every artist would like to do that. Every artist should aspire to do that. And a lot of the times beginners will get discouraged because of the fact that
finding your sound and finding that unique style takes 10,000 hours.
Yeah. Well, 10,000. I don't know. Is that really real?
Well, that's a book by Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah. But
And
is it
actually, have you seen
really-
that
is it
Phineas wrote it on the...
like on the studio?
yeah,
on
yeah,
the
yeah.
wall, yeah.
So when he leaves, he touches it.
Mm.
So you can tell that he had that in mind
they
when
have that,
working on
they
his
have that
craft.
work ethic, yeah.
Yeah. So to all you bedroom producers out there who want to become bedroom super producers, maybe it's all about them 10,000 hours.
That could be another podcast.
Absolutely, because
10,000
work ethic.
hours of what?
Yeah, that's a great question, because it could be songwriting, it could be learning chords, it could be singing, could be playing
checking out Instagram and 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
Not too sure about that.
Goes to show you also that if you thoroughly work on your craft, SoundCloud or Instagram becomes irrelevant. Like I can't remember what interview I was listening to, and they said, I think it was Rob Kinelski again, the mixer, and he said, who cares about SoundCloud? Yes, it's dead, but it was going to happen no matter what. Like whether it was off of SoundCloud that she would have gotten discovered, or YouTube like Justin Bieber, or you know what I mean?
I think it's just a question of as long as there's different medias out there that you can post your music on, your videos, which one it is doesn't really matter, because people they're gonna find you in a way or another.
Exactly.
If you spread your music on the internet, they're gonna find you in a way or another.
And if you put that soul of yours on these records,
they're gonna hear it. Yeah.
Will hear it, feel it.
Yeah.
I'd like to close out this very, very interesting discussion. I think that we could go on for hours about these two wonderful souls, old souls too, I must add. And that would go out like a suggestion for young artists. And if you look at the way Billie approaches her art, it's really not all about the music. Like she said herself that she didn't see herself when she was younger, actually, at least, that she didn't see herself as a singer, and very much more as a dancer and as a performer. And the other thing that I found fascinating is that she's synesthetic. Like when she writes songs, she draws the lyrics. Like she'll draw monsters if the song is about monsters and fears and stuff like that.
So she associates music and sound to other media, right? Like colors and shapes and numbers.
The way I see it is she's playing this music game as 3D chess. She sees everything. She sees the colors of the videos while writing the song, while being in the studio, before it's mixed, before it's arranged. She already has this full vision of what this whole thing is, which I find is the biggest quality an artist can have, because then you can direct everyone and you're really like the boss. You know where this thing is going. Whereas sometimes an inexperienced artist will hire, a manager to do certain things, and then hire a photographer, and the photographer will give them the vision that they think, but then it's not accurate, and therefore
it doesn't quite match with the
exactly
the type
there's
of song. Yeah, but I think it's more of a question of in a way it's being creative, like on another level.
Yes,
when you're thinking of sound as a color, you can relate to that. When you're thinking of sound as a number, or it gets you to some other place. And usually artists, they're not they don't focus just on one thing.
Yeah.
They usually do many things. They can do sometimes painting, sometimes photography, singing, dancing, all these kinds of things. And I think that it gives you a more rounded way to see your art. And in a way, maybe you get less tired when you can relate your sound to different things, different colors, different metaphors.
Yeah, and draw inspiration from all of these different places.
Exactly. And
like you said,
you become more creative too.
Exactly. And like you said, if it's just a matter of listening to all types and genres of music, then at least you can have music that has more dimensions to it. Yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm inviting artists out there. And if you're listening right now, listen carefully. Don't let yourself get boxed in. All right? And try to expand as much as you can and free yourself of these unwritten rules of the music game to become timeless.
Cool. It's a good suggestion. And just to ask you one last question.
Sure.
The song that you're working right now on, what color is it?
So I have two in the oven right now. I would say that one is like aqua and orange, more of a easygoing vibe, summery. And the other one would probably be a deep purple.
Cool.
Yeah.
So like Prince style, deep purple.
Less funky, more, I would say, imagine a club with a very low ceiling. The walls are painted black, but there's a bit of neon purple color in there. There's a lot of sweat dripping from the ceiling and on the columns. And there's a couple people have shaved heads and they're all sweaty also. And they dance like they're possessed. And that would...
all right. That's cool.
So BK, if the good people out there want to support us and want to keep this show going, how can they support the Bedroom Super Producer and Delicate Beats?
Many ways. They can support us by just going on our YouTube channel, checking out all the cool, funky tutorials that you've been making the past year.
They could do that.
They could also go on the website for Delicate Beats and check out our presets, our serum stuff, all the different contact packs that we have. And of course, if you could follow our podcast and download our podcast and listen to it every week, that's also a great way to get good info and to support us.
I guess I'll add to that our domain is delicatebeats.com. If you want to appreciate all of the, I'd say 10,000 hours-ish of work that BK has been putting in the sound design of our cool tools.
And we're putting in some more.
And maybe drop a little 5-star review on Apple Podcast would go a long way to help us.
That's right.
All right. So on this note, Bedroom Super Producers Worldwide, thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
Peace out.